I shouldn't have asked her that question. Because after that day, nothing felt the same. There are some moments in life that divide everything into two parts, before and after. And for me, it all changed with one simple question. Before that, my grandma was the safest person I knew. The kind of person you never doubt. The kind of person you trust without thinking twice. She wasn't loud. She didn't talk much. But there was something about her presence, it made everything feel calm. Every time I sat next to her, it felt like the world slowed down. I grew up watching her do the same things every single day. Waking up early, making tea, sitting quietly by the window. Sometimes she would just stare outside for minutes, without saying anything. Back then I thought she was just thinking. Now I know she was remembering. There was always a softness in her eyes. But if you looked closely, just for a second, you could see something else hiding behind it. Something heavy. Something she never talked about. But I never questioned it. Why would I? She was my grandma. And in my mind she had nothing to hide. At least that's what I believed. Until that day. It started like any other normal afternoon. Nothing special. Nothing unusual. I was just going through some old things in the house. Trying to clean up, organize, the usual. That's when I found it. It was an old photograph. Folded. Slightly torn from one side. Like someone had tried to hide a part of it. At first I didn't think much of it. Just another old memory. But then I looked closer. There were 3 people in that picture. My grandma, a man I had never seen before. And someone whose face was missing. Not blurred. Not damaged by time. Removed. Carefully. Like it was done on purpose. I remember staring at that picture for longer than I should have. Trying to make sense of it. Who was that man? And more importantly, who was the person that had been cut out? It didn't feel like an accident. It felt intentional. And that's what made it uncomfortable. For a moment, I thought about putting it back. Pretending I never saw it. Because something about it didn't feel right. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore it. It stayed in my mind. That missing face. That unknown man. That quiet, hidden story. I tried to shake it off. Told myself it was nothing. Just an old picture. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Because suddenly, all those small moments started making sense. The way she avoided certain topics. The way she went silent when specific names came up. The way she quickly changed the subject, like she didn't want to go there. I had noticed it before. I just never paid attention. But now it felt different. Now it felt like a pattern. And the more I thought about it, the harder it became to ignore. I remember sitting there, holding that picture, thinking to myself, should I ask her? It sounds like a simple thing. Just a question. But it didn't feel simple. Because a part of me already knew that whatever the answer was, it wasn't going to be easy. I told myself to leave it. That it wasn't my place. That some things are better left alone. And for a few minutes, I actually convinced myself to forget about it. But then I looked at that picture again. And something inside me just wouldn't let it go. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was something else. Something heavier. Like I had already stepped too close. And now there was no going back. I wish I could tell you I made the right decision. That I thought it through. That I was prepared. But I wasn't. Not even close. Because if I had known what that one question would lead to, I would have put that picture back exactly where I found it. I would have walked away. And I would have never asked her anything. But I didn't. And that's the part I have to live with now. I remember exactly how it started. It didn't feel like a big moment. No dramatic build-up. No warning. Just a normal evening. She was sitting in her usual place by the window, the light fading slowly behind her. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet we were both used to. I walked in, holding that photograph in my hand. For a second, I just stood there, watching her, trying to decide if I should say anything at all. But she noticed me. She always did. "What is it?" she asked softly, without even turning fully toward me. I hesitated. "Nothing," I said at first. "Just cleaning some old stuff." She nodded. Calm. Unbothered. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. I sat down across from her, still holding the photo, my fingers pressing lightly against its edges. I tried to act normal. Tried to make it feel like just another conversation. So, I found this, I said casually, holding it up just enough for her to see. For a moment, she didn't react. Her eyes moved toward the picture slowly. And then everything changed. It was subtle. If you weren't paying attention, you'd miss it. But I saw it. The softness in her face disappeared. Not completely. Just enough. Like something inside her tightened. She didn't reach for the photo. Didn't ask to see it. She just looked at it from a distance, like it was something she didn't want to get too close to. "Where did you find that?" she asked. Her voice was still calm. But something in it felt off. "Just in one of the old boxes," I said. "I didn't even know we had stuff this old." She nodded again. Too quickly this time. "You should put it back," she said. Simple. Direct. No curiosity. No interest. That was the first moment it felt strange. Because this was her past. Her memories. And yet, she didn't want anything to do with it. I forced a small laugh. "Why? It's just a picture." She didn't respond immediately. And that silence, it stretched longer than it should have. I tried to keep it light. "Who's this?" I asked, pointing at the man in the photo. "I don't think I've seen him before." That's when she finally looked at me. Not at the picture. At me. And for the first time, I felt something I had never felt from her before. Distance. Her eyes held mine for a second too long. Then she looked away. "It's no one," she said quietly. "No one." The word didn't fit. "You don't keep pictures of no one?" I smiled again, but it felt forced now. "Come on, there are 3 people in this photo," I said. "And one of them is literally cut out." I tried to sound curious. Normal. But inside, something had already shifted. She didn't like this. I could feel it. "You shouldn't go through old things like that," she said. Still calm. But firmer now. "That's all in the past." I nodded slowly. "Okay, but still," I said, keeping my tone light. "Who was he?" I pointed again. That man. The one I had never seen before. Her fingers moved slightly in her lap. A small movement. But it wasn't random. It was tension. "I said it's not important," she replied. This time there was no softness in her voice. Just a quiet wall. And suddenly, I felt like I had crossed something invisible. The room didn't feel the same anymore. The air felt heavier. I should have stopped there. I know that now. But in that moment, all I could think about was that missing piece. That face that had been cut out. That man she refused to name. And the way she wouldn't even look at the picture. "Why is someone cut out of it?" I asked. The question came out before I could stop it. And the second I said it, I knew something was wrong. Because she froze. Completely. Not a movement. Not a breath. Just stillness. I had never seen her like that before. "Who was it?" I added, more quietly this time. No answer. Seconds passed. Then she slowly stood up. Not in a hurry. Not angry. Just deliberate. "You're thinking too much," she said. And she walked past me. Like the conversation was over. Like none of it mattered. But it did. It mattered more than anything now. "Grandma," I said, turning toward her. "I'm just asking." "Leave it." 2 words. Soft. But final. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Because something in the way she said it made it clear. This wasn't just a topic she didn't like. This was something she didn't want touched at all. I sat there, still holding the photo. My mind racing. Trying to understand what just happened. Because this wasn't normal. This wasn't how she reacted to things. Not her. Never her. And that's what stayed with me. Not the photo. Not the missing face. Not even the unknown man. It was her reaction. The way she shut down. The way her voice changed. The way she avoided it, like it could hurt her just to talk about it. That's what I couldn't ignore. Because now it wasn't just a mystery. It was something real. Something buried. Something she was protecting. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why did she react like that? What was so important? That she wouldn't even say a name? And why did it feel like I had just touched something I wasn't supposed to? That night I told myself I would forget about it. That I would respect her silence. That I would let it go. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I wasn't going to stop. Because whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not even close. I told myself I would let it go. I really did. That night, I put the photograph back in the same box. Closed it. Pushed it away. Like that was enough to erase what I had already seen. But it didn't work. Because once something like that gets into your head, it doesn't leave. It sits there. Quiet. Waiting. The next morning felt normal on the surface. She was in the kitchen making tea like always. Same movements. Same calm presence. If someone walked in, they'd think nothing had changed. But I couldn't look at her the same way. Not anymore. Every small thing started to feel different. The way she avoided eye contact for just a second longer than usual. The way she didn't ask me what I was doing that day. The way the silence between us felt heavier, like it meant something now. I kept replaying that moment in my head. The way her face changed. The way she said leave it. It didn't match the person I thought I knew. And that's what pulled me back in. Not curiosity. Not anymore. It was something else now. Something closer to obsession. I tried to distract myself. Tried to stay busy. But every time I sat down, every time things got quiet, my mind went back to that photo. That missing face. That unknown man. And her reaction. Especially her reaction. Because that wasn't normal. That wasn't someone brushing off an old memory. That was someone hiding something. And I couldn't ignore that anymore. By the afternoon, I gave in. I went back to that box. Slowly this time. Like I already knew I was crossing a line. I opened it again. The smell of old paper hit me first. Dust. Time. Forgotten things. I picked up the photograph again. Stared at it. Trying to notice something I had missed before. But it was still the same. 3 people. 1 erased. And no answers. I started going through the rest of the box. Carefully at first. Then faster. There were letters. Old ones. Folded. Some sealed. Some already opened. Most of them didn't make sense on their own. Just fragments. Pieces of conversations that didn't have a beginning or an end. I opened one. The handwriting was hers. You could tell immediately. Neat. Controlled. Careful. But the words. They felt different. Short sentences. Incomplete thoughts. Like she was holding something back even on paper. I kept reading. Line after line. Trying to connect something. Trying to find a name. A clue. Anything. That's when I noticed it. A name. Just once. Written quickly, almost like she didn't want to write it at all. And then never mentioned again. I stared at it. Read it again. It didn't sound familiar. Not even slightly. But something about it felt important. Like it didn't belong in the life I knew. I looked through more letters. Searching for that name again. But it wasn't there. Not in any of them. Just once. And gone. That didn't make sense. If someone matters enough to be written once, they don't just disappear from everything else. Unless you make them disappear. That thought stayed with me. And it made everything heavier. I moved on to another stack. Old papers. Documents. Some of them were damaged. Edges torn. Ink faded. Dates barely visible. But I could still make out enough to understand one thing. The timeline didn't match. There were gaps. Big ones. Years that just weren't there. Or didn't line up with the story she had told me growing up. I frowned. Went back. Checked again. But it was the same. Something was missing. And it wasn't small. It was too big to be an accident. I sat there for a while, surrounded by pieces of her past. Trying to put it together. But the more I tried, the less it made sense. That's when I found another photograph. This one wasn't torn. But it was worse. Because it looked complete. Normal. Until you looked closely. There were 2 people in it. Her. And the same man. The one from the first photo. Only this time. There was no third person. No missing face. No damage. Just the 2 of them. Standing closer than I expected. Closer than what felt normal. I felt something shift in my chest. Because now it wasn't just a random stranger. He was in more than one photo. Which meant one thing. He mattered. A lot. I turned the photo over. There was writing on the back. Faded. But still readable. A date. And one word. Just one. I read it again. And again. Trying to understand what it meant. But it didn't explain anything. It only made things worse. Because now there were more questions. More gaps. More things that didn't add up. I leaned back, running my hand over my face. Trying to slow my thoughts down. But it was too late. I was already in it. Too deep. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about a photo anymore. Or a name. Or a missing piece. This was about something she had erased. Deliberately. Carefully. Over time. Not just from pictures. But from everything. From letters. From records. From memory. And the scariest part? She had done it so well. That I had lived my entire life without even knowing something was missing. Until now. I looked around the room. Everything felt different. The same walls. The same furniture. But now it all felt like a place built on something hidden. Something incomplete. And I couldn't unsee it. I picked up the first photo again. The one with the missing face. And for the first time, I didn't just see what was there. I saw what wasn't. And that absence. It felt louder than anything else. Something big was missing. Not small. Not simple. Something that had been removed on purpose. Something she didn't want anyone to find. And somehow, I had found it anyway. I sat there in silence, holding pieces of a story that didn't want to be told. And one thought kept repeating in my mind. If she went this far to hide it, then whatever this is, it's bigger than I imagined. I tried to slow down. I told myself I was overthinking. That maybe I was connecting things that didn't need to be connected. But once you start seeing cracks, you can't unsee them. Everything begins to shift. Even the smallest memories. I started going back in my head, replaying things she had told me over the years. Stories from her past. Simple ones. Where she grew up. Who she knew. What her life looked like before I was even born. They had always felt complete. Clear. But now, they didn't. There were gaps I had never noticed before. Details that didn't match what I had just seen. I remember one story in particular. She used to say she spent most of her early years alone. That life was quiet, simple, uneventful. But that didn't line up anymore. Not with the photos. Not with the letters. Because the man in those pictures, he didn't look like someone who was just passing through. He looked like he belonged there. Like he was part of her life. A part she had never mentioned. Not even once. I sat there thinking about it. Trying to find a way to make it make sense. But every direction I went led back to the same thing. She had left something out. Something important. And she didn't just forget it. She removed it. That realization didn't feel light. It felt heavy. Because forgetting is one thing. But choosing to erase something, that's different. That means it mattered. More than anything else. The next few days felt strange. I didn't bring it up again. Not directly. But I watched her more closely. The way she moved. The way she spoke. The way she avoided certain topics without making it obvious. And the more I paid attention, the clearer it became. This wasn't random. It was controlled. Careful. Like she had spent years making sure certain things stayed buried. And she was good at it. Too good. That's when something else happened. Something I wasn't expecting. I was visiting a relative. Nothing unusual. Just one of those routine visits. Small talk. Familiar faces. The kind of setting where nothing ever really changes. But that day, something did. We were talking about family history. Casual conversation. Names. Old places. Memories. The usual. And then someone mentioned her. My grandma. Not in a strange way. Just part of the conversation. I didn't think much of it at first. Until the tone shifted. It was subtle. Just a slight pause. A glance exchanged between two people. The kind of look you don't notice unless you're already paying attention. And I was. Because now, everything felt like a clue. You're close to her, right? One of them asked me. I nodded. Yeah. There was another pause. Then a small, almost careful smile. Then you probably know more than the rest of us. Something about the way they said it didn't feel right. I frowned slightly. What do you mean? They hesitated. Just for a second. Then shrugged it off. Nothing, just that she's lived a long life. Simple words. But empty. Like they were covering something. I didn't push it right away. But the feeling stayed. That same feeling I had when I first saw the photo. Incomplete. So I tried again. More casually this time. She doesn't really talk much about the past, I said. Was she always like that? Another pause. Longer this time. And then, you don't know everything? It wasn't said dramatically. No tension in the voice. But it landed heavier than anything else. I felt it immediately. You don't know everything? The words echoed in my head. Because they confirmed something I had already started to believe. There was more. A lot more. And whatever it wasn't something people talked about openly. I leaned forward slightly. What do you mean by that? But this time, they didn't answer. Just a quick shake of the head. It's not my place, they said. And just like that, the conversation moved on. Like nothing had happened. But for me, everything had changed again. Because now it wasn't just in my head. It wasn't just photos. Or letters. Or missing pieces. Someone else knew. Someone else had seen it too. And they weren't saying it. That made it real. Too real to ignore. By the time I got back home, my thoughts were louder than ever. And I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I had to ask her again. Not directly. Not aggressively. Just enough to see how she reacted. Enough to confirm what I was starting to understand. That evening, I found her sitting in the same place. By the window. Like always. Everything looked the same. But I wasn't the same anymore. I sat down near her. Kept my tone normal. Controlled. Someone mentioned you today, I said. She looked at me. Curious. But calm. Oh. Yeah, we were just talking about old times. She nodded slightly. No reaction yet. So I continued. They said I don't know everything. That's when it happened. A small change. Barely visible. But enough. Her fingers tightened slightly. Her gaze dropped for just a moment. Then came back. What does that mean? She asked. Her voice was steady. But I could hear it now. That same edge. The one from before. I shrugged lightly. I don't know, that's why I'm asking you. Silence. Again. Longer this time. I could feel the tension building. Even though nothing loud was happening. I think people talk too much, she said finally. And just like that, a wall went up again. I took a breath. Careful. Measured. I'm not asking about everything, I said softly. Just about that photo. That was it. The shift was immediate. Her expression changed. Not anger. Not exactly. Something deeper. Something more controlled. I told you, she said quietly. It's not important. There it was again. The same line. The same defense. But now, it felt different. Because now I knew it wasn't true. I didn't push further. Not this time. I just nodded slowly. Okay. But inside, everything was louder than ever. Because now it was clear. This wasn't just avoidance. This wasn't just forgetting. This wasn't even fear. This was protection. She wasn't just hiding something. She was protecting it. And whatever it was, it mattered enough for her to keep it buried. No matter what. Even from me. That night, I didn't sleep. Not properly. Every time I closed my eyes, the same pieces kept coming back. The photo. The missing face. The name that appeared once and vanished. And those words. You don't know everything. I tried to ignore it. Tried to convince myself that I was pushing too far. That maybe this wasn't something I was supposed to understand. But the truth was, I was already past that point. There's a moment when curiosity turns into something else. Something heavier. Something that doesn't let you walk away. And I had crossed it. By morning, I already knew what I was going to do. I was going to ask her again. Not casually this time. Not indirectly. Directly. Clearly. And whatever happened after that, I would deal with it. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear small sounds I had never noticed before. The ticking of a clock. The faint creak of the floor as I walked. It all felt louder. Like everything knew something was about to happen. She was in the same place again. By the window. The light falling softly across her face. For a moment, I just stood there, looking at her. And a part of me hesitated. Because this was still her. The same person who had always been gentle. Safe. And I knew. Whatever I was about to do might change that. Forever. I walked in slowly. She looked up. A small, familiar smile. "You're up early," she said. I nodded. Yeah. My voice felt different. Heavier. I sat down across from her. Closer this time. Not like before. There was no pretending now. No casual tone. No distraction. Just silence. She noticed it. Of course she did. "What is it?" she asked. That same question. The same words as before. But this time, everything behind them felt different. I took a breath. Held it for a second. Then let it go. "I need to ask you something," I said. She didn't respond immediately. Just watched me. Carefully. Waiting. And in that moment, I could feel it. That tension again. That quiet shift. Like something inside her already knew where this was going. I didn't ease into it. I didn't soften it. Because I knew. If I did, I wouldn't say it at all. "Who is the person that was cut out of that photo?" The words left my mouth. And everything went still. Completely still. The air. The room. Her. She didn't blink. Didn't move. Didn't even look surprised. Just frozen. Like time had paused around her. Seconds passed. Then more. But she didn't answer. And that silence. It felt heavier than anything she could have said. "Grandma," I said softly. "Please." Nothing. Just that same stillness. Then slowly. Very slowly. She looked away. Not at the window. Not at the room. Just away from me. And that's when I saw it. For the first time. Not hesitation. Not avoidance. Fear. It was quiet. Controlled. But it was there. Clear enough that I couldn't ignore it. My chest tightened. Because I had never seen that in her before. Never. "You don't need to know that," she said finally. Her voice was low. Careful. Like every word was being chosen. But it wasn't firm. Not like before. There was something under it now. Something fragile. "I think I do," I replied. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't push aggressively. But I didn't back down either. Because now, it wasn't just a question. It was something I needed to understand. She shook her head slightly. "No," she said. "You really don't." Another silence. Longer. Heavier. And I could feel it building. That moment where something either breaks or disappears completely. I leaned forward slightly. "Then why hide it?" I asked. "Why remove someone from a picture like they never existed?" That hit something. I saw it. A small crack. Her expression shifted. Her hands moved in her lap. Tightened. And for a second, it looked like she was about to say something. Something real. Something honest. But then, she stopped. Like she caught herself. Like she pulled it back before it could come out. "It was a long time ago," she said. Deflection. Again. But weaker this time. "It doesn't matter anymore." "It matters to me," I said quietly. That line. It changed the air between us. Because now it wasn't just about the past. It was about us. About trust. About everything I thought we had. She looked at me again. And this time, there was no distance. No wall. Just something raw. Something tired. "You don't understand," she said. And her voice. It wasn't steady anymore. That was new. That was different. "Then help me understand," I replied. Another pause. But this one felt different. Because now, she wasn't just avoiding it. She was fighting it. Fighting something inside herself. I could see it. The way her breathing changed slightly. The way her eyes moved. Like she was looking at something that wasn't in the room. Something from far away. Something she didn't want to see again. "I made choices," she said slowly. The words came out carefully. Like they were heavy. Heavy enough to carry for a lifetime. I didn't interrupt. Didn't move. Because I knew. This was it. The edge. The point where everything either comes out or gets buried deeper than before. And some of those choices, she continued, don't go away just because time passes. Her voice cracked slightly. Just enough. And that alone. It was enough to shake me. Because she never lost control. Never. Who was it? I asked again. Softer now. Not pushing. Just asking. And for a moment, I thought she might answer. I really did. Because her lips parted slightly. Her eyes shifted back to me. And there was something there. Something close to the truth. But then, it disappeared. Just like that. Gone. She closed her eyes for a brief second. And when she opened them again, the wall was back. Stronger this time. More final. You shouldn't have asked me that. The words landed quietly. But they hit harder than anything else she had said. Because there was no anger in them. No frustration. Just regret. Deep. Heavy. Regret. I felt something drop inside me. Because in that moment, I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't just a secret. This was something she had been carrying alone. For years. Maybe her entire life. And I had just forced it to the surface. Without knowing what it would do. I'm sorry, I said instinctively. But the words felt weak. Useless. She shook her head slowly. Not rejecting the apology. Just dismissing it. Like it didn't change anything. Some things, she said quietly, are better left where they are. Her voice had gone calm again. Controlled. But it wasn't the same calm as before. This one felt empty. Like something had closed. For good. I sat there in silence. Not knowing what to say. Not knowing what to do. Because I had what I wanted. A reaction. A crack. A confirmation. But it didn't feel like a win. It felt like I had just stepped into something I wasn't ready for. And as I looked at her, really looked at her, I realized something that made everything heavier. She wasn't just avoiding the truth. She was protecting it. She took a slow breath. Her eyes drifting away from me. Not avoiding. Remembering. You see me as someone who lived a simple life, she said. I stayed quiet. That's what I let everyone believe. There was no pride in her voice. No justification. Just truth. But it wasn't always like that. The air shifted. Subtly. But enough. Because now, we were stepping into something else. Something deeper. I wasn't always this person, she said. I made choices that changed everything. Her words slowed down. Like each one carried weight. There was a time when things were different. And just like that, the room started to disappear. Not physically, but emotionally. Because her voice, it wasn't in the present anymore. It had moved somewhere else. Somewhere far behind. I was younger, she said quietly. And I thought I understood the world. A faint, almost invisible smile touched her face. But it didn't last. Back then, I believed people were simple. That you could trust what you see. She shook her head slightly. I was wrong. I felt it. That shift. From warm to something colder. Darker. There was someone, she said. And that was it. That one line. Everything changed with that one line. Because now, the story had a center. A person. The one from the photo. The one she never named. I didn't say anything. Didn't ask. Because I knew. If I stayed quiet, she would keep going. And she did. He wasn't supposed to matter, she said. Not at first. Her fingers tightened slightly in her lap. A small detail. But it said everything. He just appeared in my life. The way she said it. It didn't sound random. It sounded inevitable. Different from everyone else, she continued. The kind of person who makes you feel seen. Even when you don't realize you were invisible before. Her voice softened for a moment. Just a moment. And in that moment, you could hear something else. Something buried under years of silence. Something that used to be real. But people like that, she added slowly, they don't come without a cost. There it was again. That darkness creeping in. Slow. Unavoidable. I leaned forward slightly. Not asking. Just listening. He knew things, she said. About me, about my life. Things I never told anyone. That didn't sound normal. It sounded wrong. Like something wasn't right from the beginning. I should have walked away, she said. And this time, there was no hesitation. No uncertainty. Just certainty. Clear and sharp. But I didn't. Silence. Heavy. Final. Because that line. It carried regret. Real regret. I thought I was in control, she said. I thought I understood what I was doing. Her head lowered slightly. But I didn't understand him. Now the tone had fully shifted. There was no warmth left. Only something cold. Something distant. By the time I realized what was happening, she continued, it was already too late. My chest tightened. Because now, this wasn't just a story. This was something that had consequences. Something that had changed her. Changed everything. He wasn't who I thought he was, she said. And the way she said it. It wasn't just disappointment. It was something deeper. Something closer to betrayal. And I wasn't who I thought I was either. That line lingered. Because it didn't just reveal him. It revealed her. Her past. Her choices. The part of her I had never seen before. I swallowed slowly. Still silent. Still letting her speak. Because now, I was fully in it. There was no distance left. No curiosity. Just truth unfolding. And I could feel it. Whatever she was about to say next. It wasn't going to be easy. Not for her. Not for me. Because the way she looked now. The way her eyes had lost that calm softness. It said everything. This wasn't just a memory. This was something that had never really ended. Something she had carried. Every single day. And now, for the first time, she was letting it come out. She went quiet again. Not because she was done. But because she was choosing what to say next. And I could feel it. This wasn't just memory anymore. This was the part she had buried the deepest. The part that had been cut out. Just like that face in the photograph. I didn't just meet him, she said slowly. I let him into my life. Her voice didn't shake. But it wasn't steady either. It carried something heavier now. Something closer to truth. He wasn't a stranger for long, she continued. And that was my first mistake. I stayed still. Didn't interrupt. Because now, every word mattered. He knew exactly how to get close, she said. What to say, what not to say. A faint pause. And I believed him. That line didn't sound like a confession. It sounded like regret. Deep, quiet regret. At that time, I thought I had control, she said. But I didn't realize. I was already losing it. Her eyes drifted again. Far away. Back into something she couldn't undo. There was a moment, she said, when I knew something was wrong. Her fingers tightened again. But I ignored it. Another pause. I chose to ignore it. That choice. It echoed louder than anything else. Because it meant one thing. She saw it coming. And still she stayed. By then, I was already too involved, she said. And walking away didn't feel like an option anymore. I felt something shift inside me. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. It was becoming something bigger. Something that had consequences. Real ones. And then, she said quietly, everything changed. That line. It carried weight. The kind of weight that doesn't come from a small mistake. But from something irreversible. I found out the truth about him, she said. Her voice dropped. Lower. Colder. He wasn't who he said he was. A pause. Long. Heavy. And by the time I understood that, she looked at me for the first time in a different way. Not as her grandchild. But as someone standing in front of her past. It was already too late for me to fix it. My chest tightened. Because now. This was it. The turning point. What do you mean? I asked quietly. She didn't answer immediately. Her lips parted slightly. Then closed again. Like she was holding something back. One last time. You need to understand something first, she said. Her voice steadied slightly. Not calm. Just controlled. Everything you believe about this family. She paused. Is built on a version of the truth. That line hit harder than anything before it. Because it didn't just point to her. It pointed to me. To everything I thought I knew. I frowned slightly. What are you saying? Another pause. Then she said it. Slowly. Clearly. Without looking away. The person in that photograph. Her voice softened for just a second. Was not supposed to exist in your life. My heart dropped. I didn't fully understand it yet. But I felt it. Something was about to break. He wasn't just someone I knew, she continued. He was someone I chose over everything else. That didn't sound right. Not at all. Even when I shouldn't have. Her eyes lowered. And that choice. She exhaled slowly. It didn't just affect me. I felt my hands tighten slightly. Because now. This was moving closer. Closer to something I wasn't ready to hear. It changed the course of everything that came after, she said. The room felt smaller. Heavier. Like the walls were closing in. Years later. I tried to erase it, she continued. I removed him from photos, from stories, from memory. Her voice cracked slightly. But some things. She shook her head faintly. Don't disappear just because you want them to. I leaned forward slightly. My voice lower now. More careful. Who was he? This time. She didn't avoid it. But she didn't answer directly either. Instead. She said something worse. He is the reason your family is not what you think it is. That line. It hit like a crack in something solid. Something I had never questioned before. What does that mean? I asked. But my voice. It didn't sound as steady anymore. Because deep down. I already felt it. Something wasn't right. Something bigger was coming. She looked at me. And for the first time. There was no hesitation left. Only truth. Raw. Unprotected. The man you think you're related to. She paused. Is not who you think he is. Everything went silent. Not just in the room. Inside me. Because that line. It didn't just create doubt. It destroyed certainty. What are you saying? I asked. My voice barely above a whisper. She held my gaze. Didn't look away. Because now. There was no point hiding anymore. I'm saying. She took a slow breath. That the truth about your family. Another pause. Was changed before you were even born. My chest felt tight. Heavy. Like I couldn't fully breathe. Because now. This wasn't just her past. This was mine. You deserve to know, she said. But knowing it. Her voice softened again. Will not make things better. That warning. It came too late. Because I was already in it. Tell me, I said. And this time. There was no hesitation in my voice. Because whatever this was. I needed to hear it. She closed her eyes for a moment. Just one. Then opened them again. And said the words that changed everything. The man in that photo. A pause. Is your real grandfather? Everything stopped. Completely. My thoughts. My breath. The room. Because that one sentence. It didn't just reveal something. It destroyed everything I thought I knew. I stared at her. Waiting for something else. Something that would make it make sense. But nothing came. Because that was the truth. Raw. Final. Unchangeable. And suddenly. Everything from before came rushing back. The missing face. The erased name. The silence. The avoidance. It all made sense now. And at the same time. It made nothing feel real anymore. You're lying, I said instinctively. But even as I said it. I knew I didn't believe it. Because the look on her face. It wasn't someone lying. It was someone finally telling the truth. A truth they had carried for too long. I wish I was, she said quietly. And that line. It hit harder than the truth itself. Because it meant one thing. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion. This was real. And it had always been real. Just hidden. Until now. I leaned back slowly. My mind trying to catch up. To process something it wasn't ready for. Because this wasn't just a secret. This was a fracture. A break in everything I thought I understood about myself. About my family. About her. And as I sat there, trying to make sense of it, one thought kept repeating in my head. This wasn't just her story. This was mine too. And I had no idea what to do with it. I didn't respond. Not immediately. Because there are moments when your mind hears something, but refuses to accept it. And this was one of them. I just sat there, looking at her, waiting for something to change, for her to take it back, to say she was confused, that she misspoke, that I misunderstood. Anything. But she didn't. She just sat there, looking at me, with that same quiet, tired expression. And that's when it started to sink in. Slowly, painfully, like something breaking from the inside. No. The word came out before I even realized I said it. That's not possible. My voice sounded different. Sharp. Almost defensive. Because I wasn't ready to let it in. Not yet. That doesn't make sense, I added quickly. That's not what I've been told my whole life. She didn't argue. Didn't interrupt. Just listened. And somehow, that made it worse. Say something, I snapped. The frustration rising before I could control it. Explain it. Tell me this is wrong. My chest felt tight. My thoughts racing faster than I could process. Because if this is true. I stopped. Because I didn't even know how to finish that sentence. If this is true, then what? Then everything is a lie? Then who am I? Then what was real? She finally spoke. Softly. I know this is hard. Hard? The word felt small. Too small for what I was feeling. Hard? I repeated, almost laughing. But there was no humor in it. You're telling me my entire life. My voice cracked slightly. Is built on something that isn't even real. Silence. Again. But this time, it wasn't quiet. It was loud. Filled with everything that wasn't being said. I stood up. I didn't even realize I had. But suddenly, I couldn't sit there anymore. Couldn't stay still. This doesn't make any sense, I said, pacing slightly. You've had years. Years to say something. My voice rose. Not shouting. But close. And now you just tell me like this? I stopped. Turned back toward her. Why now? That question. It came from somewhere deeper. Not anger. Not confusion. Something else. Something closer to hurt. She looked at me. And for the first time, I saw it. Not control. Not calm. Pain. Real pain. I didn't want to, she said. Her voice broke slightly. Just enough. And I hoped I would never have to. That didn't help. It made it worse. So you just decided to lie? I shot back. Just pretend it never happened? She shook her head. No. Her voice trembling now. I tried to forget. That's not the same thing, I said quickly. But it is, she replied. And there was something in the way she said it that made me stop for a second. Because every day, she continued, I had to wake up and choose not to remember. That line. It slowed something inside me. Not completely. But enough. Because it didn't sound like an excuse. It sounded like survival. I didn't erase it because it was easy, she said. I erased it because it was the only way I could keep going. Her eyes filled slightly. Not fully breaking yet. But close. Too close. And I thought. She paused. If I kept it buried long enough. Her voice dropped. It would never reach you. That hit differently. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me. About protecting me. Or at least, what she believed was protecting me. I ran a hand over my face, trying to slow everything down. But it wasn't working. You should have told me, I said. Quieter now. Less sharp. But I didn't know how, she replied. And every year that passed. She shook her head slightly. It became harder. There was a pause. Then she said it. The words I didn't know I was waiting for. I did it because. She stopped. Closed her eyes for a moment. Then opened them again. And this time, there was no holding back. I did it because I was scared. The room went still. Not silent. Still. Because that wasn't what I expected. Not justification. Not defense. Fear. I was scared of losing everything, she continued. Scared of what people would say. Scared of what it would do to the family. Her voice broke again. More visibly this time. And most of all, a tear finally slipped down her cheek. I was scared of what it would do to you. That last line. It didn't land softly. It hit hard. Because suddenly, this wasn't just betrayal. It was something more complicated. Something harder to define. I thought I could control it, she said. I thought if I hid it well enough. Another tear fell. I could protect you from it. Her hands trembled slightly now. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't respond. Because I didn't know how. Because part of me was still angry. Still hurt. Still trying to process everything. But another part was starting to see something else. The weight she had been carrying. The years of silence. The fear behind every decision. And that made it harder. Not easier. Harder. Do you know what it's like? She said quietly. To live your whole life knowing one truth. And telling everyone another? Her voice cracked completely now. No control left. Do you know what it feels like? To look at someone you love. And know that if they find out, everything could change? I swallowed. But I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. I couldn't know. Not like she did. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. I never wanted that. Her shoulders shook slightly now. The calm gone. Replaced with something raw. Something exposed. But I knew. She whispered. If you ever found out, it would. And there it was. The truth behind everything. Not just what she did. But why she did it. Not because it was right. Not because it was justified. But because she was afraid. And she chose the only path she thought she had. Even if it meant lying. Even if it meant hiding. Even if it meant carrying it alone. For years, I stood there. Not moving. Not speaking. Because everything inside me felt mixed. Anger. Pain. Confusion. And something else. Something I didn't want to admit yet. Understanding. But I wasn't ready for that. Not fully. Not yet. Because the truth was, I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know how to react. All I knew was, everything had changed. And there was no going back. Not for her. Not for me. Not for any of us. After that, everything slowed down. Not in a peaceful way. In a heavy way. Like the air itself had weight now. I didn't say anything. Not because I didn't have words. But because none of them felt right. Nothing I could say would fix what I had just heard. Nothing would put things back the way they were. So I stayed quiet. And for the first time in my life, silence between us didn't feel comfortable. It felt distant. I sat back down. Not because I wanted to. But because I didn't know what else to do. She didn't speak either. She just sat there. Hands resting in her lap. Eyes lowered. Like she had nothing left to explain. And maybe she didn't. Because the truth was already out. There was nothing more to add. Only something to live with. Minutes passed. Maybe more. It was hard to tell. Time didn't feel normal anymore. I kept looking at her. Trying to see the same person I had always known. But something had changed. Not just in her. In me. Because now, every memory felt different. Every moment we had shared. Every story she had told. Every quiet afternoon. It all felt like it had something hidden underneath it. Something I had never seen before. And now I couldn't unsee it. I wanted to feel the same. I really did. I wanted to look at her and still feel that same comfort. That same trust. But it wasn't there anymore. Or maybe it was. Just buried under everything else. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly. Her voice barely breaking the silence. I nodded. But I didn't respond. Because I didn't know if that was true. Or maybe I did. But it didn't change how it felt. It doesn't matter what you meant, I said quietly. The words came out slower than I expected. It still happened. She didn't argue. Didn't defend herself. Just accepted it. And somehow, that made it harder. Because there was nothing to push against. No anger. No denial. Just truth. And that kind of truth. It sits with you. It doesn't fight. It doesn't leave. It just stays. I looked away. Out the window. Trying to focus on something else. Anything else. But my mind kept going back. Back to that moment. Back to what she said. Back to what it meant. Because this wasn't just about her past. This was about mine too. Everything I thought I knew about my family. About where I came from. About who I was connected to. It all felt uncertain now. And I didn't know how to deal with that. I need some time, I said finally. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Just honest. She nodded. Slowly. I understand. Another pause. Then she added. Take as much time as you need. That sounded simple. But it wasn't. Because how do you take time from something like this? How do you step away from a truth that follows you? I stood up again. This time more slowly. More controlled. I'm going to go out for a bit, I said. She didn't stop me. Didn't ask where. Didn't say anything else. Just nodded again. And that was it. I walked out of the room. Then out of the house. And for a moment, I just stood there. Outside. Breathing. Trying to feel something normal again. But it didn't come. Everything felt off. Like I was in the same place. But not in the same life. I started walking. No direction. No plan. Just moving. Because staying still didn't feel possible. My thoughts were loud again. Louder than before. Not questions anymore. Just wait. I kept replaying everything. Her words. Her face. The way her voice broke when she said she was scared. And I hated it. Not her. But the way it made me feel. Because part of me wanted to hold on to the anger. It was easier. Cleaner. It gave me something solid. But another part kept pulling me somewhere else. Somewhere more complicated. Because I had seen her. Really seen her. Not as the person I grew up with. But as someone who made a mistake. A big one. And lived with it. Every single day. That didn't erase what she did. It didn't fix anything. But it made it harder to just hate her for it. And that's what made it painful. Because now, it wasn't just truth versus lies. It was truth versus love. And I didn't know which one mattered more. I stopped walking. Looked around. I didn't even recognize where I was. And that somehow felt right. Because I didn't recognize anything anymore. Not my thoughts. Not my feelings. Not even my own story. I stayed there for a while. Just standing. Letting everything settle. Or at least trying to. But it didn't settle. It just stayed. By the time I got back, it was already dark. The house was quiet. Lights dim. Exactly the way I had left it. I stepped inside slowly. Half expecting something to feel different. But it didn't. Everything looked the same. Except now. It didn't feel like the same place. She was still there. In her chair. By the window. Like she had never moved. I paused for a second. Watching her. And for a brief moment, I almost saw her the way I used to. Calm. Familiar. Safe. But it didn't last. Because now I knew more. And that changes everything. I walked past her. Quietly. She didn't stop me. Didn't say anything. And I didn't either. Because there was nothing left to say. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. That night, we were in the same house. Just a few steps apart. But it felt like miles. No conversation. No small talk. No warmth. Just silence. Heavy. Constant. Unavoidable. And in that silence, something settled between us. Not resolution. Not understanding. Just distance. The kind that doesn't come from being far away. But from seeing someone differently. From knowing something you can't unknow. I lay awake again. Staring at the ceiling. Thinking about everything. And nothing. Because there were no clear answers anymore. Just one truth. Everything had changed. And I didn't know if it could ever go back. Not to how it was. Not to who we were. Because sometimes, it's not the truth itself that breaks things. It's what it changes inside you. And that was something I could already feel. Slowly. Quietly. But permanently. It's strange how one question can change everything. Not loudly. Not all at once. But slowly, quietly. Until nothing feels the same anymore. I've replayed that moment more times than I can count. Standing there, holding that photo. Deciding whether to ask or to let it go. And every time, I reach the same place. The same thought. The same regret. I wish I never asked her that. Because now, I know. And knowing didn't set me free. It didn't bring closure. It didn't fix anything. It just changed things. Changed how I see her. Changed how I see my family. Changed how I see myself. There was a time When everything felt simple. When love didn't come with questions. When trust didn't come with doubt. But the truth. It doesn't care about simplicity. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It just exists. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. People say the truth always matters. That it's better to know than to live in a lie. But I'm not sure that's always true. Because some truths, they don't heal anything. They don't give you peace. They just take something away. Something you didn't even realize you were holding on to. And once it's gone, you feel it. In the silence. In the distance. In the way things don't feel the same anymore. I still sit with her sometimes. In that same room. Same chair. Same quiet evenings. And from the outside, it probably looks normal. Like nothing ever happened. But I feel it. That space between us. That invisible line. Not built from anger. Not even from blame. Just from knowing. And maybe that's the hardest part. Because I don't hate her. I can't. And maybe that's what makes it hurt more. Because now, it's not about choosing sides. It's about carrying something you never asked for. Something you weren't meant to see. And learning how to live with it. I don't know if things will ever feel the same again. Maybe they won't. Maybe they can't. But I do know one thing. Some questions. They don't just give you answers. They take something from you in return. And sometimes, what they take is something you can never get back. So if you ever find yourself standing where I stood, holding a piece of the past, wondering whether to ask or to walk away, just remember this. Not every truth is meant to be uncovered. And not every answer is worth the cost. Because I asked. And now, I have to live with it. Some things are buried for a reason.